I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Welcome to the Flatlander Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. My name is Elliott, the producer. Today we've got a little something different for you guys. We're recording this episode just a few days after the Flatlander Kennel AKC Double Master. And so I was out there in Nebraska with Chris. He watched all of Georgie's sessions, so he's going to give it to me and give me some tough love about things I need to do. But we're going to put out this episode actually on two different podcasts. For those of you that are listening on the Flatlander Kennels podcast, you may not listen to my other podcast, which is the North American Waterfowler podcast, centered around waterfowl hunting. There's some dog stuff on there too. But if you're a Flatlander Kennel listener and you love waterfowl hunting, you might want to check out the North American Waterfowler podcast. And if this is also airing over on the North American Waterfowler podcast, because I'd like for you guys to make a jump over to the Flatlander Kennel podcast, because there's a lot of dog people over there that may not have heard what we're doing. So we're kind of cross promoting. So this episode is going to be, other than the introductions, is going to be on both podcast outlets. Now, when I was out there with Chris, I was able to stay at the lodge, which last time I was out there last year, I was with my stepson Elijah, and we stayed at the lodge, and there was some construction going on. They were adding a room, and I can tell you, I had no idea that Chris was doing as much as he was doing. I walked in there the first time I got, and I was like, okay, well, I knew you were adding on an addition, but this is absolutely ridiculous. It went from kind of a place to sit to like a full-blown hunting lodge. Chris, talk about those additions. I had no idea you guys were doing all that, ripping out, putting in flooring.
It blew up on us. That's kind of how I mostly do things. I have an apartment over there. I have a big shop over there, and we have an apartment on that, and we ended up making that brand new, gutted it, made it a brand new 2-bedroom apartment, super, super nice, everything brand new. And then they moved to the lodge, and we added a bedroom, a bar, knocked the walls out, added a big great room with got like 9 recliners in it, a huge waiter room. All the members have their own locker, walk-in gun vault. New siding, new windows, new roof. I mean, it exploded, and it
became an actual nice lodge.
Yeah, it is.
It wasn't nice before, but you're adding in wood flooring. You now have a huge dining table. In addition to a dining table, there's a little room, I don't know what you would call it, where there's taller tables, little round tables just to sit and hang out at.
High top tables in there, right. And it's got concrete countertop or concrete bar, high top tables, like one of those open window refrigerators you would see. I mean, it turned into that's like a bar lounge area with a big TV in it. Knocked the wall out, have the kitchen. Now we got a big dining room now that used to be the living room with a great big table in it. And then right off of that is our great room that's got like 9 recliners and a 100-inch TV and mounts everywhere. And then right off of that is our waiter room with every member's got their own little locker, which is not little. It's really nice. And then a walk-in gun vault and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I like the idea of a club better than a guide service, because I know you've made that transition to kind of like it was a guide service for a while, right? And then you switched.
Yeah. For a few years, it was a guide service, and I just didn't care for it. I mean, I didn't do a bunch of the guide, and then we had guys that worked for us, but I didn't care for it. We had a lot of really good people that became friends that came out and hunted with us, but it just was too much. It was, it was hard to make everybody happy. And if they didn't shoot their limit, they were upset. They missed it by 2 birds. And it was just too much. So now I quit that. I made it like a really, really exclusive club. There's only 7 members, and we're actually looking for a member right now. If anybody wants to think about joining, it's not cheap by no means, but it is very, very fun, very nice. But we went that route, and I'm tell you, it's just like a bunch of guys hunting together that are buddies, and that's all it is. And it's it's not a revolving door of new people coming, the guide service.
Right, and it's on the historic Platte River.
Yeah, North Platte River.
Well, you have 2 miles section?
Yeah, we got a mile and a half of the North Platte River, and we've got 7 or 8 cornfields for geese and duck, field mallards and meadows, and we got a little bit of everything. We shoot ducks on the river, ducks in the fields, geese in the fields. All of our pits and blinds are heated, super, super nice. We make breakfast in the blinds, and it's just a good it's fun. It's a buddy system, and, all of us are buddies, and we all hunt together, and every member can bring one guest if they want. Right. It just ends up being a really good time.
World-class hunting. I've seen videos. I've seen clips, and there's no doubt it's world-class hunting.
Yeah.
For sure. So if you are interested in wanting to fill that last member slot,
just get a hold of me. Yeah, just email me at flatlanderkennels@gmail.com or look me up on Facebook. You can find me there and shoot me a message, something like that.
Yeah. Or contact me and I can pass you over there if you can't remember that.
Yeah, there you go.
Feel free to do it. And fingers crossed, barring another, I'm thinking like what all could have happened in my life last December that would have stopped me from going out there and hunting with you. There's a very short list. Unfortunately, a heart attack is one of the
number one on the list, Scotty, almost.
That sucked.
Yeah. Well, we'll get him this year.
Yeah, we'll definitely get him this year. So I just want to say my time out there with you guys, I've really, really enjoyed it. And just being at the master test and listening. I haven't been to a bunch of master tests. That was only my third different spot that I've been to for a test. And people just could not stop talking about how efficiently that double masters was run. Eileen your wife does an amazing job of, I went out and bought all these groceries when I got there because I'm like, I better buy some groceries so I have stuff to eat. And it's like, it all just spoiled because you guys feed everyone so damn well.
Yeah, we feed everybody at the test, and then the judges stay at the lodge, and so we feed all them there. So you got in on that, and she does a phenomenal job. She works her butt off and tries to take care of everybody, and she doesn't get to watch the tests run very often, but she's so busy. But yeah, everybody's a good time. It's become a destination in July, and it's just we had 100 dog masters. We have 2 of them. We had back-to-back weeks of it. So we had 400 dogs that ran. It was a pretty big event.
And it runs very, very efficiently. So great.
Andrew, my one right-hand man here at the kennel, he ramrods all of that, and we couldn't do it without him. He's a go-getter for sure.
Right. So today in this episode, you're going to critique Georgie, which we've talked about a little bit, and then we're going to do some Q&A. But the Q&A we're doing on this episode comes from my Instagram followers. So if you're a Flatlander Kennel Podcast listener, these questions are probably going to be a little bit different because I'd say the majority of the people that follow me are not the hunt test crowd necessarily. So I think these questions are going to be interesting. There may or may not be a question there about silver labs, so be ready for that.
Oh boy, is that a lab? I'm not really sure.
I think half your kennel's full of silver labs from what I heard.
I gotta go. Thanks for coming.
Flatlander Kennels.
We do not have one on the property. I can promise you that.
Home of poodles, silver labs, and golden retrievers.
I'll trade a poodle and a golden retriever. They're purebreds.
Right. Yeah, I know there's some really pissed off poodle and golden retriever owners right now that I lump those in there together. I know that those are.
Do not lump them in with a silver.
No.
So
I just personally don't like poodles. My aunt had poodles all the time, and I do not like poodles just as a dog. I don't like how they look.
The big standard poodles are a lot different. They're a big dog. They're kind of cool, but it's still a poodle. But they're not like a lab or something. But I appreciate a good dog is a good dog for sure.
Right. So before we get into what you saw of Georgie, do you want to talk about the dogs you had running and how this test series went for you?
Yeah, I mean, we did a good job. That was our last test for the qualification period of the Master National for 2024, which ends July 31st. And we ended up qualifying 20. Let me think about this. We ended up qualifying 28 dogs for the Master National. Out of our training groups, we ended up qualifying like 32. Out of the training group that we have, the kennel qualified 28. Most of those dogs are going to go. We'd have been over 30, but we had a couple, dog got injured this year. He didn't make it, and a dog got injured last year that he never quite recovered fast enough. So we'd have been over 30 for the kennel, but 28 is plenty to we're done doing that. That was our last test qualification, which, that's a good thing because our dogs were they were really starting to come apart. We ran so much. I mean, we were from the end of June to now it was ridiculous, and they were starting to fall apart. But we got all the dogs qualified we needed to qualify except for one young one. She just missed it by a couple, 2-year-old, and she did a great job. It just was just too much for her. There's a lot going on, but we are exhausted. I mean, we are so tired right now. Now it's just to hunker down and train. We won't run another test till towards the end of August, which we need to do because the dogs are really starting to come apart.
Right. Yeah. And I took a video of you running a couple dogs. I know at least one of those I'd like to put on the Flatlander Kennels YouTube channel, just to show off the dog, show off the grounds, show off your handling. Well, I've been working on that. So you guys, you can see video of Chris handling one of his dogs here real soon. Probably
she did good.
Yeah, she did. She did a nice job on it was the second series of the second test is the one it's the water one with the 2 blinds.
Okay.
I liked that one. I like putting video of water stuff. It's just more appealing, I think, to the eye to see it's just such a beautiful grounds and having water in the video.
Yeah.
So
but no, we're proud of the crew. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, 28 dogs is a bunch, and we're this time of year, everybody's just so tired. It's hot, days are long, and hopefully it'll start cooling down before too long. But everybody's just exhausted right now, and I'm glad we're done running tests for a while because dogs are coming apart.
And so, the more hunt test dogs run, the worse their behavior or their performance becomes because you can't correct their mistakes, right?
Yeah, correct. So there's very little training and mostly running of tests. So imagine your kids. Imagine you and your wife went on vacation for a month, and your kids were with grandma and grandpa for a month. And when you get home, what happens? You're trying to catch them corral, and they won't listen to you, and they don't care. It's the same thing. It's the same. So it takes a little while for them to get back in the swing of things and fall in line a little bit, so to speak.
Right. And you're seeing some of that. So now from now to the Master National and the Grand, it's just train.
Yeah, we're going to train. We're going to run one Master test for sure. Towards the end of August, we're actually going to have another test here. Colorado Foothills are going to have a test here again. And we're going to run that test, and then that'll probably be our last Master test before the Master National. And Andrew's got 1 or 2 more HRC tests he's going to run with the young finished dogs and seasoned dogs. And then I'm going to probably send Andrew in September to another Master test with our young Master crew that's coming up that aren't going to the Master National. So there's probably 4 or 5 more tests in our future before the end of the year,
right.
Maybe 3 or 4, but other than that, now it's like today, I took out the whole Master National crew and started hunkering down on line manners and, we ran singles off of multiple guns and ran, a tough little lamb blind and a corner cutter on and off a point water blind. And now we're really starting to fine tune them and start nitpicking them, so to speak, to get them ready.
Right. Let's move on, transition to Georgie, and then we'll do the Q&A. So with Georgie's hunt test season is over. We had 4 events. She passed 3 out of 4 of them. Here are the positives of things that she's greatly improved on this summer. Her cheating water has greatly improved. Her lines have greatly improved, and her angles on casts have greatly. In fact, I rewatched, and thank you again for videoing all of her series. And I watched some of those, and you and I had talked about this in a different episode. There are times in which I don't trust she's going to take my literal cast. So I overcast to get her to do, I give her like a 2:00 cast to get a 1:00. And I'd gone in the habit of doing that, but she's gotten so much better. There is one blind in particular I'm thinking of that she got offline specifically because she did exactly what I told her to do.
Good.
But I gave her too far over of an angle. So her angle, we had talked about that before. Her angles on the cast are getting much better.
And that's when you started incorporating giving her a collar correction before cast.
Yes. This is what you said. Yeah. Give it before. And I did that. And immediately her angle. So now I used to be, I'd do 12 and 2. She kind of got in 3, but now she's doing much better at 12, 1, 2. And I saw that. And it's like, all I needed to do was a 1 o'clock, or even like sometimes you have me straight up and stepping, and she would have been right on it. And I just overcasted. And so,
yeah. Well, that's good. She ran good blinds for the most part when she was here. Her biggest problem was control, but,
right. So let's talk about that. You watched all 6 of her series. Critique her as harshly as you can. Give it to me, your assessment
in front of everybody.
Well, when we talked about it at your house, I cried then, so I think it's out of my system.
No, her biggest thing is her control. As far as in the holding blind, she starts to make noise. Coming out of the holding blind, she's starting to make noise. She gets up there, and you're having to talk to her a lot to heal her. And, you tell her to heal. She moves up. Here she moves up. Then she starts getting frustrated and making noise. And then you start getting in a hurry and everything. So her biggest problem is her control.
Right.
And I'm talking about all of it. Because when she gets really wound up, that's when she starts making noise. That's when she starts blowing off on whistles and casts and angles. So all that starts, at the truck or in the holding blind.
Mm-hmm.
She does a lot of really, really good things. She knows where the birds are at. She loves to go. But like when you try to make her heel, she moves up. So you tell her to move back, she moves up. You move closer to her, she moves up. She never fully gives in to you and gives you complete control and is obedient.
Right.
So
what do you steps do I, and I know you said at your house, basically she and I need a fundamental relationship change. Essentially.
Sure. 100%.
So moving forward from now on, and since then I have tried to just be stricter with her in everything that we do in her life. I've tried to be stricter with her, but what should I implement? What should I go about doing to get her by the time hunting season? Even into hunting season, what steps should I take to?
I would make her sit in the passenger seat and get off your lap in the truck when you're driving down the road. That's the start.
She does not sit on my lap in the truck.
She's the one driving, and you're in the passenger seat. but no, she needs to understand she's the dog, and you're the alpha, and you're the boss, and she doesn't understand that because she probably gets to sleep on your couch and lay on your couch and lay on your chair. Wherever she wants to lay. Like I told you, put her in the cleaning shed at the night because there's no dogs in the lodge. She's like, oh, she'll sleep in my truck. That's just fine. Put her in the damn building in a crate. Because all that stuff makes them feel like they're equal.
Right.
You know what I mean? All that stuff. Jump up on you, or they put the paw on you to nudge you to, hey, pet me, or they nudge your hand to pet me, so you pet them. Every time they do that they think they're equal. And they're not equal, especially with a dog like that. That dog there is a high-powered – she's got a big motor. And those dogs like that, everybody thinks, oh, my dog works for me so well. It wants to please. They don't give a damn about pleasing you. They're doing it for themselves. And if they wanted to please you, they would do everything right. Correct? They would heel right. They don't care about doing it to please you. They're pleasing themselves. And so people that think, oh, the dog just wants to please, stop thinking that way. That's not how they work. Dogs are very selfish animals. And if you give these dogs an inch, especially like a dog like Georgie, super, super talented, and she knows it. And she knows she's running the show, especially at a hunt test where you can't snap her up. She's just going to rule the roost and do whatever the hell she feels like. So that's where I think with her, maybe a really good obedience session in the morning before you go to the test at the hotel, wherever you're at, might be really good for her.
Yeah.
Or even take her off the grounds after the first series and maybe do an obedience session somewhere there. Just to let her know that you're still in charge. Like, hey, I'm the boss. Listen to me. That sort of thing. Because you have, as an amateur with one dog, you have that luxury. And when I go to the national or go on the weekend hunt test, there's always, if I take a full crew of 30, 35 master dogs, I'm going to probably run 30 to 35 master dogs in August here. If I'm on the road at the national, at the Grand, wherever I'm at, there's always 2 or 3 dogs that I give an obedience session to every single morning.
Mm-hmm.
4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, we're doing an obedience session with certain individual dogs, because if I don't, it's over. They run over top of me.
Right.
And I don't put up with anything. So I think that would be really, really, really good for her, actually.
And even before hunts.
Yeah, for sure. If you notice her starting to get wound up at a hunt and not listening to you and making noise, and you have a lull in the hunt, man, snatch her up and do something with her and put her, put her back in there.
Yeah. So
she's got to understand the hierarchy of the world. Because think about this: in a dog's life, or a canine or a wolf, let's just say, there's one alpha male, and there's an alpha female. Well, there's one alpha, and if you get out of line, they put you back in line.
Yeah.
And she's never been put back in line. She just thinks she's one of you guys. I mean, she thinks she's a human. So, and I have to do that same thing with Flash every once in a while. Like, hey, listen, I know you're Flash, but listen, you're a dog. Come on. As he's like on the dog bed looking at me, but he stays on his dog bed too. He doesn't get to run the full house. But I think you need to crack the whip a little bit, so to speak, and put some control on her.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about just different ways that I can implement that, because she gets sloppy in her boat behavior.
Yeah,
she gets sloppy, and there's times where she wants to, because she does ride in the cab with me a lot. And there's times where she wants to exit when she wants to exit. There's times where even just like going outside, where it's just I could probably come up a list of 20 things in which she's saying, I'm doing what I want to do, and because I'm not gonna make her an outside dog. It's just not the relationship that I'm gonna have with her as my one dog. But there's all sorts of things I can do inside the way we do things to be more of the alpha.
Well, here's what I would do. I would start out like in the house. She doesn't get to go out the door until you go out the door. She doesn't get to come in the door until you come in. You come first. Right. Make her sit. Make her sit. Open the door. You walk out. Call her to you. Okay, go. Make her sit. Open the door. You walk through the door first. Call her to you. Coming in the house. I mean, she has to understand that you come first. She's there for you. You're the alpha. And make her sit before you feed her. Make her sit.
Yeah.
Like make her look at the food. No, sit. Then when you say, okay, then let her eat when you tell her it's okay to eat. All those things, when you open up the crate door, she can't jump out until you say, okay, come on, open it up. Like literally open it up, walk away, and make her stay in there. And then when you start doing all those things, it'll start helping you.
And now if she doesn't do those, how harsh a reaction do I need to have? Is it just the fact that I'm doing it, or if she doesn't do it, does it need to be kind of an angry tone?
You need to correct her. It all depends on your correction and response needs to be enough to change her behavior.
Right.
So whatever that behavior is, you just need to change it. So if it's a little bit, not a problem. If it needs to be more, or if you notice you're not changing her behavior by what you're doing, you need to amp it up then. And here's the biggest problem you're going to have is the family. The family's going to let her get away with murder. So now you've incorporated, you're gonna set the standard, you set the bar, right? So does the rest of the family have to do the same thing. If they can't hold the standard, then don't mess with her. Put her away. See what I'm saying?
I think, they really don't. I'm her caregiver. And so, the family will come in and kind of cuddle her and stuff. But when it comes to doing anything, I'm her primary caregiver.
Okay. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if your wife's making dinner and you tell her to sit and get out of the kitchen, and next thing you know, she's back in the kitchen, you need to enforce all those things.
Harshly.
Like Flash, I don't put up with, Flash runs around the house, but I don't put up with him I don't want him in my bedroom. I don't want him in the kitchen. I don't want him running around. I want him, we got 2 dog beds that you saw by the TV and by the window. That's where he lays.
And he knows.
And I don't want him anywhere. That's his spot. And I stay out of my face. And if you can't, you're going to go downstairs.
Yeah. It really pisses me off in a hunt test that she will give me a vocalization when I give her a command, and it literally feels like she's giving me the middle finger.
And that's exactly what she's doing.
Man, it pisses me off. The worst she did it was at Flint Oak, where Eric sat me down in between test 1, and he basically was giving me the same type of feedback. Like, you're just letting her run. She's running the show. He was giving the same feedback. And so the second series, I was trying to implement some of those things, and she got more vocal. In the third series, literally, she let out a couple yelps that it was absolutely like, F you.
Yeah,
Man,
100%. And she's getting
really
Eric's fine. So we talked about it. She's getting frustrated, but you know what? Who cares? I mean, you're not going to let your kid do that crap to you, so don't let her. I mean,
Right.
she's basically back talking you is what she's doing.
Absolutely.
That's what she's doing. And I know when I was growing up, if I back topped, oh boy, bad deal. So I think you're never going to get rid of that. I don't think there's any way that you're going to get 100% rid of that. But now you've got to do something to control it.
Yeah.
So,
because there was some moments during some of those series that I felt cumulatively, I was like, if they failed me because she's not quite healing like I want her to, she's being a little too vocal, she's creeping. I felt like if they said, hey, cumulatively, we're going to fail you, I wouldn't have been mad. It was like, to me, it felt like it was on the line to me.
It was a couple of times were pretty close, but it didn't get much worse. It started out kind of bad and stayed there, but it did get better as the week went. It wasn't quite as bad towards the end, but that in training, and I wasn't there when you and Eric trained, so I was too busy getting hunt test stuff ready to go. But in training, I would not put up with anything. I mean, I wouldn't put up with 1 ounce of noise. I wouldn't put up. You better heel to the line like perfectly. When I say heel, like when you want her to move back with you, she better move back. If you move forward and she moves forward, no, you need to sit. I would really start getting that under control in training.
I just need to hold a higher standard in all that department. I have been, especially in training, I've been focused on marks and lines, but I've just been way too. I'm sure I've been too sloppy in all the areas, but especially this area, I know that I've been just too sloppy. Just put up with too much.
Yeah. I mean, your standard needs to stay high and then keep it that way.
Right. All right. Well, anything else you can think of before we move on to some questions?
No, I actually thought she did pretty good work. I thought she ran pretty well. Was pretty confident. You were nervous, of course, and I expected that, and it's, you get blinders on, like tunnel vision. It's like you start going and you forget what's going on around you. And we talked about that. But that just takes experience and line time.
And I felt towards the last day, especially the 5th and 6th series of the whole event, I was starting to calm down a little bit. I'm just so nervous about all the procedural stuff that I'm going to forget, like dropping your gun down and nudging your dog with your foot. It's that, but I'm starting to get to the point where now I've done it. See, I don't know, 9, 12 different series. So I'm starting to not have to think about so much, and it's allowing me to relax a little bit.
Yeah, and you got better as the week went, but I didn't realize you were such an introvert. Like the crowd would be over there, you'd be all by yourself off to the side, and I didn't realize that. As much as you like to talk and be on podcasts, I actually didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, you just got to do with the emotions that you're cursed with.
I get it. I've got some demons myself, so.
I'll tell you, when I ran off to the hills in Nebraska, though, and I had a great time and I talked about a different podcast. Introverts, it's like that stuff drains energy from you. So when I'm done being around people, I'm really tired. Versus extroverts, they actually gain more energy from it. So I went out and camped by myself in a little tent by the lake and did a whole day of scouting, and that was just like rounded off the whole weekend for me.
That's perfect. And I'm not really an introvert or an extrovert. I'm just in the middle of all of it. But I'm telling you what, I loved everybody that was here, and I got along with a lot of them, my friends. But after a while, I was like, thanks for coming, but get out. I've had enough.
Yeah.
There's so many people and peopled out, but it was all, I love seeing everybody, and I'm glad they came. And it was just it was an exhaust. It was a lot.
Did you hop on the Harley this last weekend?
I did. We rode a little bit this weekend, and Saturday we rode and got rained on 3 or 4 times and just got soaked. But you know what? It was fun. We had fun.
So is that what just recharges you, being on the Harley? It just puts you back into ready mode?
It does. And that recharges me. Get away from the dogs. get away from all the hectic and hustle and bustle. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even, this sounds crazy, but I don't even have to go anywhere. Like if I just watch some TV, maybe watch some Netflix, just chill and relax and hang out and go out to dinner and see some friends. That's all I really need.
Right.
Now the Harley is the cream of the crop. I really enjoy that. That's about the most I could do that more than about anything in the world. And that really helps me to get on the road and just go. We call it wind therapy. And it truly is. I mean, that does really, it really helps me.
Would you say that's when you feel the most peace in your life is riding?
Yes, 100%. Either that or duck hunting. In the morning of the duck hunt, when the decoys are put out, and right before shooting time, you've got that 20-minute window where it's not quite shooting time yet, and it's so funny because I'm like, this is like my favorite time. Like the decoys are out, the anticipation of the morning, it's quiet. The river's waking up. It's like, and everybody starts talking. I'm like, I wish everybody would just shut up. Like, just everybody be quiet, let the world wake up, and let's just watch it wake up. That's my most peace there. And then when I'm on my bike, one of those two.
Amen to that. I have never experienced the bike.
That's my favorite part of the morning.
All right, you ready for some questions?
I can't wait.
All right, these come off of the Freelance Duck Hunting Instagram account. So if you're a listener and you don't follow me over there, then make sure it's at Freelance Duck Hunting. All right, here we go. This one is from H. Hodge Outdoorsman. Best tips for early development of a duck dog, first 6 to 12 months. Now, that's a big one.
6 to 12 months. Well, it starts at like 7 weeks, 8 weeks. It's socialization. That is the number one thing. By far the number one thing. Get that dog to soccer games, t-ball fields, baseball fields. Don't take it to the trap or skeet range, but just socialize the heck out of it. Get it on birds. Try to get it on birds as quickly as you can, whether it's wings, duck wings, goose wings. Clipped wing pigeons are fantastic. They are the best. I don't recommend quail so much because quail are so little. Those puppies will chew on them, eat them, and swallow them, actually, when they get a bit older. But socialization, get them on clipped wing pigeons and birds, and get them in the water if it's at the right time of year. Get them in cover. Just the biggest thing about a dog is a happy, confident dog will learn very easily. A dog that's scared to death of the world because they weren't shown the world are very hard to teach because they're scared of everything and they're already behind the 8 ball. And there's some dogs that are just born that way. They're just born scared of the world. And there's nothing, now those dogs that you can recognize that, those dogs you have to work extra hard on, taking them to places to get them to be confident. Those dogs, you can see it, recognize it, and now you have to do extra work. The dogs that are really, really outgoing and really, really fired up as a get-go, those dogs you may want to put a little bit of control on it a little bit quicker. But the biggest thing is socialization. That is the number. Do not put that dog in the kennel and go, I just don't want to screw him up. So he's been in the kennel for 6 months. That's the worst thing you can do.
All right, let's move on. Connor Brock 96. What's a good method for teaching a dog how to stay? I would add sit and stay probably to that.
Sit. Yeah, we don't do stay. We say sit. Sit means sit until I tell you to do something different. That's just, you make them sit, and then you just, you put them on a leash for one with a flat collar, and you walk them around with a heel, and you make them sit, and then you walk away from them, and then when they move, you move them back and tell them to sit. And it's a lot of attrition, lots of teaching where you just tell them to sit, and if they don't sit, you move them back, and you just have to keep doing it over and over and lots of repetition until you get to the point where you can walk all the way around them, and then you can get, that's called a sit stay, and that's just all part of control.
Right. And normally during that time, you're going to have a lead on them too, right?
Yeah. You'll have a flat collar and a lead on them for sure.
Yeah.
And that you should be teaching them how to walk at heel at that same time.
Yep. If you're listening to this on North American Waterfowler Podcast, we've gone through Chris's whole flow chart, starting from the time that you bring a dog home, clear up. We haven't fully finished it, but we've gotten pretty deep into it. So over on Flatlander Kennels Podcast, in the title of the description, it says Jobman's flow chart is how it always starts. And so you can go through every single progression as you're training. When you're training a dog, the main thing, pick a plan and just be consistent with it. There's so many people that
pick a program.
And just be consistent. Effort. Just give effort to it.
You have to try, and you have to put the time in and pick a program and stay with it. And the biggest thing you'll notice on Facebook is everybody's an expert. Be careful. Not everybody's an expert. Everybody on Facebook thinks you're an expert, but they're not. So find a good program, find a good pro, get a video, get books, get DVDs, and find a good program and stay with it and be the biggest thing about dog training is consistency. Be consistent.
Yeah. And for me, so if I had a puppy right now, personally, I would go back through the flow chart from Chris over on Flatlander Kennels podcast. And I would also be on the retrievertrainer.com because Freddie King gives you so much help over there. And you actually, when you're with that system, you tie into Freddie and you actually have it's crazy how active he is. Just he has a
on there too, commenting sometimes. Freddie's a good friend of mine and I'm on there commenting and helping but he's very, very active when it comes to all that stuff.
And I do want to address this real quick. Can you give me your opinion? Because there's a lot of programs out there right now that are very, very trendy that don't go through force fetch and don't do any type of e-collar conditioning. Can you give and let's just stay to someone who doesn't want to do the hunt test game, but they want a really well-trained, well-behaved dog in the hunting field. What would you say to using a program that doesn't have e-collar training or force fetch?
They're junk. Don't use them. That's honest God truth. Here's the biggest thing is that's the new trendy thing, right? Everybody doesn't want to be quote unquote mean to their dog. And it's not being mean. It's keeping them under control. And if you properly collar condition your dog right and you properly force fetch your dog right, it's not a big traumatic experience. They like to think it's a big traumatic experience. The people that are teaching the programs without that, because they're trying to sell material. They are literally pulling at the heartstrings of people because they don't want, and they're saying, oh, it's mean, to sell material. That's all they're doing. It's a marketing gimmick. It's a gimmick. It is. We've had dogs come from some of them programs that don't do that, and we have to completely rebuild the entire animal. They don't understand pressure. They don't know how to learn. They don't know how to put pressure off. When the going gets tough, they quit. They've never learned how to deal with pressure. And those programs that those people are pushing, it's a marketing gimmick that they're pulling at your heartstrings because you don't want to be quote unquote mean to your dog, and they're telling you it's mean to your dog, and they're wrong.
I would add to this, if you're going to go through force fetch and e-collar, don't do it without having a program and having a guide to go. Don't just grab it and think you're going to do it without knowing anything.
Yeah,
follow the system through.
And if you don't want to do it, if you want your dog force fetch the collar condition, but you don't physically want to do it, then send it to a good pro. Let them do 3 or 4 months of training on the dog. They get the dog back, and then you can take off. If you don't want to do that, let somebody else do it for you. Really, I'm serious. That's a big, big step. It needs to be done right.
And the difference in your dog throughout its entire life of just being able to control it in your yard is night and day.
It's just like, back in the day when your dad spanked your butt, you listen a hell of a lot better than the people that were putting time out. I can promise you that.
Right. Yeah. And these systems of like giving treats, it's like, what happens when the dog doesn't want to do it? It's like you're getting the dog to do it when the dog wants to do it. How about when the dog doesn't want to do it?
Yeah, we do treats when they're puppies. Like we do treat training when they're 8, 10, 11, 12 weeks old to teach them to learn. But once you take the treat away, now here's the problem with an older dog that are doing. They're working for a treat. They're not working for you.
Right.
And like you said, like when they don't want to do it, what do you do? Give them 2 treats? Like that doesn't work that way. So it's now I don't mind giving them treats when they've done a good job or at the end of the deal, but they're not going to run it down the shore water blind for a treat.
Right. Because there's a point in time.
They're going to not eat the bird. So if you don't force fetch your dog, they go out there, they start eating the bird, well, they give you a treat. They're not going to quit eating the bird for a treat. They're going to eat the bird, and then you're going to give them a treat too.
Or you brought this up to me when Georgie was young. I was like, well, what are you going to do? Because I wasn't sure about using e-collars. Like, what are you going to do if that dog's chasing a rabbit towards the street?
Yeah.
Then what? You got a dead dog.
I mean, e-collars keeps dog out of trouble. I mean, it's a safety thing as well. And if you don't force fetch your dog, a lot of these dogs will get frustrated because they're taking a hunt. They've gone hunting way too soon. Birds are too big, a goose or whatever. And now they get frustrated at a bird. They can't pick it up. They start picking feathers. They start chewing on it. They start eating it. And you've not properly taught the dog how to handle that bird in their mouth. And let's face it, guys, they're an animal. They're a predator. And they want to eat birds. They eat birds. That's what they do. And we are teaching them not to eat birds. So we are fighting their genetics and Mother Nature to eat a bird. So if you don't teach them how to handle that bird, you're going to end up having bad mouth problems. It's not going to be good.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that. All right. This is Chris Whitaker. What differences have you noticed between a well-bred golden and a well-bred lab?
They're night and day different. They're a completely different animal.
Give us a couple.
Man, there's golden. I've had both, of course, and I love golden. They're really well-bred, smart golden. They're super fun. Goldens seem to have more of a clowny nature to them. A butterfly. They're just a little bit different of a dog. Now we're talking about a field golden. A show golden is a completely different animal than a field golden. Just like a field lab is a completely different animal than a show lab. So let's just talk. We're talking field goldens. We're talking field labs.
Yes.
And the field golden, like I said, has just a little bit more playfulness, I guess you would say, or clowniness, or that sort of thing. And they can be a little bit more sensitive just because they're a golden. Now, I have seen some that are super tough physically and mentally, but 90% of the time, a golden will be a little bit more clowny, a little bit more goofy. They may take a little bit longer to train just because, if you're going to apples and apples and oranges and oranges, if you have a lab, a really hybrid lab that loves to do it, you can lean on them just a little bit more and push it down their system just a little bit more because they love to do it and they're a little bit mentally tougher. A golden may take a little bit longer just because they're just not quite as mentally tough. But at the end of the day, if they can both be exceptional animals. You just have to look at the golden. It's a golden. And they do weird, goofy things sometimes, and that's just them. That's just them.
So being as though they're a little bit softer, if you had 1,000 of each, would there be more washouts from goldens than labs just because they're a little softer?
Yeah, okay. I believe so, yeah. I do. I just think that's just how it is. Because if you look at it, there's not many AFC Goldens in the world, and there's a pile of labs. There's not many Grand Hunter Retriever Champion Goldens in the world, and there's hundreds of labs. I mean, that's just how they are. That's the nature of the beast. I mean, but now we own a golden who's really nice and very pretty and that sort of thing, but they're a different animal. They're a very, very different animal. And if you're a trainer that's a beater and a banger and you don't have patience, a golden is not for you. That golden is not for you.
All right, let's move on. This one's from Duck Gun Chronicles, my friend Jordan, and he's joking a little bit when he says, why are silver labs better than black ones? But here's what I want you to answer. Explain to people why is there a pushback from the hunting, specifically the hunt test community, on silvers? What is the situation?
They're not a lab. You're going to give me so much trouble right now. But they're not a lab. They're a dilute. They were bred. They're quote unquote chocolates in the AKC world. The UKC and HRC won't even let you register them. So back in the day, they were introduced. The Point Labs guys introduced Weimaraners in them. They got that color. They tried to introduce point to them, and now you got the Silver Labs, and we don't even train them.
So they've got Weimar. They come from a mixed breed of Weimaraner.
Yeah, that's how they got the silver color. You see a lot of them. They got the big droopy ears. Some of them have those big droopy ears. That's what a Weimaraner's got. So that's where that silver comes from. And somebody's going to hear this and go, "It's not true." You know what? I do this for a living, and it's true. But
you don't like it tough.
I have trained a couple of them just to, hey, every dog needs trained. I give every dog the benefit of the doubt. I will not run one in a test, but if you bring one in and say, hey, I want to try to make it a gun dog, you know what? We'll try to make it a gun dog. We've trained 3 or 4 of them. None of them have made it. not one mate. They don't care. Their desire is low. A lot of times they come with really bad health problems, skin problems, allergy problems. It's not take your money. It is a designer breed. It is not a good thing to do. Spend the time, spend the money, go find you a good black, chocolate, or yellow.
So would this be an accurate statement then? When they're trying to make silvers, they're so obsessed with the color that that's the trait they're looking for. Whereas when you're breeding dogs, you're looking for specific retriever qualities, but silvers are looking for color qualities. So
that's the same thing that happened with. So now you got to be careful. So back in the day, years and years ago, chocolate labs weren't as good as the blacks or yellows, especially the blacks, because back in the day they were bred chocolate to chocolate just to get chocolate. They did not care about performance. Mm-hmm. That has all changed now. There's lots of really good chocolate labs in the world. That has all changed now. White labs, another thing you've got to be really careful of. If somebody is promoting a white lab, I have trained really good white labs, but they were on accident. People that are breeding white labs to get white labs, just like you said, all they're doing is trying to breed for color. A Pacific color, that's all they care about. They don't care about performance. Silvers, champagnes, chocolate, or charcoals, or whatever stupid other color that could come up with a pink with purple polka dots, whatever the hell you want to think. They're breeding those colors to get those colors. They don't care about performance. All they care about is the paycheck. That's all they care about. And if you were a true lab person, you would breed a black dog, a yellow dog, and a chocolate dog. And that, like you said, color breeding for specific color and not caring about performance, that's exactly right.
All right. So then in the genetics, it just gets the farther away from high quality performing dogs and more
100%. Yeah, 100%. But like I said, you gotta be careful with, all that stuff. And if you get a white lab and it came out of two yellows, then you just had to be white and being a great dog. I trained a dog named Tia years ago, grand champion, master hunter, M&H, one of the best dogs I've ever touched. And she was, when I say white Elliott, I'm talking like snowball white. It was unbelievable. But she came out of a darker yellow. She just came out like that. And she was phenomenal. But you got to be careful when breeding for specific colors. You got to be very, very careful when it comes to that.
All right, moving on. T-Timber 94, how to fix a loopy sit. And tell the audience what is a loopy sit before you.
A loopy sit is when you blow a sit whistle and the dog either turns left or the right. And instead of shutting it down immediately and sitting down, they loop. They big old wide turn. And let's just say you blew the whistle. They were at 12 o'clock and you blow the whistle. And then they finally stopped and they were at 2 o'clock. Then this big, huge loopy whistle. And you're trying to get the dog to run a blind retrieve. And they're so far out of whack when they run that loopy sit. They're so far out of whack that it's hard to run that blind retrieve because they're not sitting quickly. So I don't know how to fix it is very difficult. You don't let it start for one. We use a check cord and we teach sit to pile, and we don't let that start. But your dog should be collar conditioned, gone through a very good basics program. Started to set to the whistle in the pile work where you're running sit to pile, tee, that sort of thing. And if your dog's not collar conditioned, you're gonna have a really hard time doing it. But if a dog's collar conditioned, you basically blow a sit whistle, you give a collar correction, and you blow a sit whistle again, trying to get them to respond quickly as possible and sit their butt down. If your dog's not collar conditioned, you're going to have a really almost impossible time. It's almost impossible.
All right. Blue Bannister, poodles as duck dogs, which we talked about this for a second, but what do you think about poodles as duck dogs?
I've never trained a standard poodle. Now, the little yapper poodles that your grandma had, they're a different breed. Now, the big standard poodles, they can be, I've seen some run and test, and they've actually done some pretty damn good work, honestly. But I've never personally trained a standard poodle. But it's just like anything else, guys. If you get a standard poodle that likes to actually do it, that's where you first start. Then you got to be careful. They may not like the cold water. But if they actually like to do it, they like the cold water, that sort of thing, they're slower than most of your big, powerful labs are or whatever. And if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. If you want, a poodle as an upland dog, and if you're okay with a more slower, more methodical dog, and as long as they like, that's your decision. That's totally up to you. Now, to find one that's really good is hard to do. There's a few people in the country that are trying to promote and push that and try to help the breed. Honestly, they were I can't remember what her name is, Janikowski. I can't remember what her name is, but the standard poodle was taken off the retriever breed years and years ago. And there was a lady in Colorado, I can see her face right now. She had these big poodles, and she was the leading force that put them back as a retriever breed and let them run hunt tests. She got it done. And she had some really nice ones. But it's just like anything else. I mean, if you're going to go race NASCAR, you're going to jump in with a Toyota Camry, you're going to, get a big race car and do it. It all depends on what you want to do. If you're okay with a dog kind of doing it, then that's great. But to find one is going to be very difficult, a good one. And if you're going to buy a standard poodle to go hunting, buy ones that actually have hunt test titles. Find some parents that actually run hunt tests. There are some master hunter poodles in the world. Find those dogs and buy puppies, because those are the dogs that are probably going to do it. A standard poodle that was at a showbred standard poodle to showbred standard poodle, good luck. Good luck. Yeah. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you're rolling the dice with that one. I've hunted with, my last dog was super low energy. She was steady. She was a great meat dog, super low energy. And now Georgie, I mean, she's as high octane as they get. And when I hunt with people, I want the people with me to love hunting as much as I do. I don't really like taking people out there. They're kind of like take it or leave it, because I love it so much. I want the people beside me to love it too. And now that I've had Georgie, I'm like that with dogs. I love a dog that loves it as much as I do.
Yeah,
that
for
just,
sure.
like, chomping at the bit to do it. Now that comes with, that's a lot of dog. For
breeding is everything.
Someone.
Breeding is everything, and how you nurture that breeding and how you make that dog. That's up to you, environmental. But breeding is everything. So if you want a poodle, there's nothing wrong with it, but you better go find you a good one. Like take your time, research it, go find your master hunters. Do all those things, and you're going to pay for it. You pay dearly for it, but that's what you want. Go right ahead.
All right, next one. This is from SD Discman. Does Chris have a favorite color in lab?
Black. It's just black on black with no color factor. That's my favorite. When I say no color factor, I mean it's a black dog. It's got black genetics. It cannot throw another color if it bred to a yellow or a chocolate. But I own chocolates. I own yellows. But my favorite is black on black with no color factor.
Yeah. When I got Georgie, I wanted a yellow because I was a yellow dog guy. And now after I've had, I don't know. Here's what I think it is. The glossy colored coated black labs. When they shine in the sun, and you can see different. They almost look kind of like a gray, because the sun reflects off their coat.
You can see the color of the different ribbons they've had in their coat.
I am with you now. I have been converted. I love the black now that I've had one. It's just something about it.
See, and Georgie's chocolate factored because she's out of our dog Isla and Flash. Mm-hmm. But my favorite are the black labs that throw no color like that. And Flash is like that. He's black and he throws no color. Those are my favorite. And I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe that's the purest form of a Labrador you can get.
That's cool.
Black with no color factor.
I didn't even know that was a thing until I met you and you talked about it. I didn't realize that some blacks like Flash, whenever he sires puppies, that they're all going to only be black. I didn't know that was a thing.
Be black. It doesn't matter who you breed him to. They're all going to be black. Now we bred him to Isla, and that's how Georgie's litter. Now Georgie's chocolate factor because Georgie's mother was chocolate. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter who you bred Flash to. He's going to throw black puppies no matter what.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. This who sent this to me?
My last 3 dogs, Elliott. My last 3 big males, Flash, Jet, and Breaker. The 3 of the best dogs you could ever see in the whole wide world. They were black with no color factor, 0.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
This comes from Elliott Blonshine. I don't mean many other Elliots. Can you determine before 12 weeks behavioral characteristics that indicate which dog would make a better hunting dog? I've heard people say they can pick out the best dog from a litter, which suggests to me that there are pups in the litter that won't be as good. Nature versus nurture.
No. At 12 weeks, those puppies should be gone. If you're trying to pick out a dog, those dogs should be going home at 8 weeks, 10 weeks at the absolute latest. At 12 weeks, those puppies should be off the mother. It should be gone. Should be away from each other. it's really hard to pick the best dog because you have genetics and you have environmental. And environmental is what happens when the dog leaves and goes home. And if you don't do a good job of raising that puppy and socializing that puppy, even the best dog in the litter is not going to turn out to be very good. So what I don't like is I don't like the one that's hiding in the corner and scared of the world. I don't care for that puppy. That to me, that's a little bit of a red flag, just because that puppy there is going to be probably be a little bit more needy, a little more scared of the world, and those are a little bit concerning to me. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to be a great puppy in the right hands, but for me personally, I like the dog that is either the alpha of the bunch, the most outgoing. When you throw a bird at 8 weeks old, it runs over its litter mates and knocks them all down and get the bird. That's what I want.
Okay.
Because I can deal with that dog. Or any other dog that's kind of like that. I just don't like the wallflower. That always concerns me.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I remember when I picked up Georgie, you guys had pigeons, I believe. I think you were actually throwing no pigeons. And you would kind of chuck them out there and the whole litter would go after them. But there's about 4 or 5 dogs that seemed like that they're always there first. And then you had your second tier group that were interested in it, but they're a little behind. And you had your ones that way trailed off. So you would want the one that gets there first. If you had to pick, you're like,
or second, or throw the one. Yeah. It may not have to get there first, but it's trying to get there first. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's trying. And then when the other litter mate grabs it, it's chasing it down. Right. And that litter of that Flash Island litter, I wish we could repeat that. Because, God dang it, that turned out so nice. I mean, Amber's got Linda, and you got Georgie, and I got Red. And that litter turned out so good. I mean, it really was. Now, Isla's retired now, but I wish I could repeat that. I really do.
Great litter. All right, I think we've got 2 more here. Let's wrap this up. Introduction to casting a younger dog to set his fundamentals correct for future.
So that would be 3-handed casting, we call it. Your dog should be through an obedience program, should be collar conditioned, should be force fetched, and then you do a thing called 3-handed casting, and we hit that a few podcasts ago on the Flatlander podcast, and then we can talk about that. But 3-handed casting is where it starts, and then you got a whole program on top of that.
And a lot of these questions, I'd say, and this comes from Effie Ryan, these are not isolated things. It's a progression that you build through.
Yes,
it's
correct.
Stepping stones. You're not going to grab a dog at a year old that you haven't hardly done anything with, and all of a sudden you're working on casting. That's not how it works. It's a progression. No, it's just like
training a dog's like building a house. You got a foundation, you got framing, you got sheeting, siding, and then you got finished work. And it takes months and months or years to get. They never quit learning. So it's training a dog is like building a house. Foundation first. You have very specific steps on how everybody's steps may be a little bit different, but they're all the same, if you know what I'm talking about. So you have to find a program and go step by step by step by step by step and follow the steps. And if you can't find a pro that can help you, maybe you can throw birds for him. But it's just like, hey, I'm going to teach my dog to go cast. There is steps you need to do before that, before you can teach it, take direction and cast.
Right. And again, over there, Flatlander Kennels podcast, it'll say Jobman Flowchart, and you can look at the title. And there are, if you just want to skip right to that just to hear it, there's one on 3-handed casting, and you want to. I would anyone training their dog again. You want to go through those audios. The audios when I did the e-collar and force fetch, I only used Jobman's audio that we did on the duck gun. I didn't use anything else. Other than there was a couple times I texted you like help, but other than that, but I think those long form audio are to me better than a 15-20 minute video. I
think the ones that we did on your first podcast were better than the one I put on the Flatlander one for some reason. In my head, they stick out. I got into more detail, but
I think they were a little longer.
They're a little longer, but just there's steps that you have to do to teach a dog to cast. Technically, the first step in teaching a dog to cast would be 3-handed casting, teaching right and left backs and overs. But go over that podcast, check it out. It'll tell you how to do it. But there's steps you need to do before you get there.
All right. This is the last one. Make sure. This is from Jacob Springs, SC. How do you build momentum and confidence in long blinds?
Oh, that's hard to say because I don't I don't know where. So the first off, you have to have a dog that's built correctly. You have to have the dogs that all the steps, all the force to pile, all the water force, swim by, cheat, pattern blinds. The dog has to be through all the steps. The best way to teach a dog to run long blinds is to run long blinds. Mm-hmm. That's all there is to it.
You don't use stakes and buckets, which a lot of people do, and you don't use white stakes and buckets.
I do not. That's why my dogs handle. But if you want to teach momentum the dog to run straight, you can put white buckets up and rerun your blinds where they're just running to run. But in order for a dog to actually stop and handle and change direction, they don't need to know where they're going. If they know where they're going, it's really hard for them to do that. So once you've got through your pattern blind program and they understand, destination training, then you're running cold blinds. The only way to get good at running cold blinds is to run cold blinds. That's the only way. And make them longer. And if you say you're going to run a 300-yard lamb blind and at 200 yards your dog is going to start getting goofy and not listening because distance deteriorates training. So when you kick them off and you just start walking, and then once they get out there, you're closer. You're 50 yards closer, and they don't even know it. They just think you're way out there. And eventually you'll get better at it if you hold a higher standard for sure.
Right. All right. Well, that's the last question before we do sign off here. All of you dog people, I want to let you know, and I on the North American Waterfowler, I talk about this. I've got an app called the North American Waterfowler app, and we just added a section last year where you can track dog retrieves. And Georgie hit 200 last year, which I was pretty proud of for my 30 hunts that she hit 200.
Yeah.
So if you want it, you can add a picture of your dog. You can put the name in there and keep track formally of your dog retrieves, and all of your hunting information can go in. There's a lot more over there.
I'm going to use that this year. I'm going to use that this year. I'm old school. I like to write stuff down, put it in my notes, but I'm going to use that this year and really try to. I wish I would have done this years ago and with the O'Malley's and the Breakers and the Jets and the Pearls, and I would have loved to see how many retrieves they got throughout their career. And I just have never done it, but it's probably not as many as I think because we rotate dogs. But it would still be fun to know that when they're passed away that how many they get.
Yeah, definitely. So go check that. You can get that iOS or Android. Check that out. Well, I think that's all. Thank you guys for listening, whether you're listening over on the North American Waterfowler podcast or whether you're listening on the Flatlander Kennels podcast. We appreciate you guys. And both podcasts have Facebook groups, but if you want to get more into the dog stuff, I would definitely say come join us at the Flatlander Kennels podcast. We had tons of questions, tons of talking going on over there, so make sure and do that. All right, let's close this thing out.
All right, buddies, that was the good one. So thanks for everybody for listening. See everybody at the line. Take dead aim.